At the end of every unit, your teacher has the chance to teach a lesson about other lessons and to enhance their context. But what do you suppose our teacher did to us? He skips the lesson and makes us present a digital LEQ. LEQ needs historical evidence, reasoning that can corroborate and advance a complex thesis that Dr. John P. Irish would admire. Then we drop the screencast like a single that is fire. Student-created screencasts for you to like, subscribe, and share. We know you had all the John Green and Steve Hiemler you can bear. If we have the most views at 10 p.m. Eastern on the 5th day, we earn 500 bonus points, which virtually guarantees an A. Without much more fanfare ado, we present our digital LEQ.
This is the effects of transoceanic trade outside of Europe by Amanda Vielman and Mariela Rosales. Hello, my name is Amanda Vielman. I'm in Mr. Whalen's 4A AP Modern World History class. Between 1750 and the 1900s, the industrialization was a period of time that mechanized industries and resulted in rapid technological advancements, urban development, and richer economies. However, the Industrial Revolution also created demographic changes through migration. Therefore, due to the availability of jobs, quality of life, and technological advances of the era, the Industrial Revolution fostered migration from rural to urban areas, as illustrated by Britain and Japan, and contributed to demographic changes of the time. Industrialization was a period of time that mechanized industries and resulted in great technological advances. Let's begin with industrialization in Great Britain. In the early 18th century, British industries were generally small-scale and unsophisticated. Cottage industry, where work was centered in workshops and in the homes of craftsmen and artisans, was most common. New technologies and innovations soon changed this, transforming from a cottage industry to a more mechanized one. Meanwhile, in the mid-19th century, the intrusion of Western powers into East Asia made many Japanese nervous against an enemy with advanced technology. Due to the fear of Western powers, Japan, under the Emperor Meiji, decided to reconstruct Japan under a more Western model to compete with the increasingly global world. This Meiji restoration kick-started the Industrial Revolution in Japan. Big idea number 1. What motivated people to migrate during the period 1750 to the 1900s? You may pause the video to think about this question and come up with answers. The main reason that people migrated was the search for jobs. There was generally a large population with many people plagued with unemployment. The Industrial Revolution provided an abundance of jobs as new industries rose. This prompted many to migrate from rural to urban areas where jobs were more readily available. This evidence about reasons people migrated in Britain is a secondary source from the British Broadcasting Channel History website. It explains how people were drawn to travel to Britain in hope of work and a better life. The evidence about reasons for migration in Japan is a primary source that came directly from a diary entry of a Japanese factory girl. She explains that she works because she wants a better life and to be able to provide for her parents. Another reason that people migrated was the quality of life. The Industrial Revolution brought many people to urban areas but also created overpopulation. This resulted in poorer living conditions. This evidence about quality of life in Great Britain is a primary source from the diary entry of a worker who lived in Great Britain during the Industrial Revolution. He explains his own experiences with the poor working conditions, low wages, and long working hours. This evidence about quality of life in Japan is a secondary source from the Weatherhead East Asian Institute of Columbia University, a research paper that explains that Japanese factory workers often worked 13-hour days without any legal rights. These pieces of evidence illustrate poor work and living conditions during the Industrial Revolution in Britain and Japan. These conditions encouraged migration from the bad conditions of urban areas to more rural areas.
Hello, my name is Mariela Rosales and I'm in Mr. Whalen's 4A AP Modern World History class. Big idea number 2. How did the technological advancements of the industrial era contribute to migration? You may pause the video to think about the question and come up with answers. Technological advancements were one of the results of the Industrial Revolution. One of these advancements is transportation technology, which allowed for faster and safer forms of travel and communication. For example, the secondary source evidence about Britain from the British Broadcasting Channel that explains how the development of steam engines were used to power boats and trains. The secondary source evidence from an excerpt about Japan provides information about how Japan constructed railroads, even stating that railroads increased circulation of goods, people, and ideas. These transportation advancements allowed people to not live in cities and migrate to rural and suburban areas. Big idea number 3. How did patterns of migration differ before and after the Industrial Revolution? You may pause the video to think about this question and come up with answers. Patterns of migration before and after the Industrial Revolution differed greatly. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, migration patterns remained majorly stagnant. The evidence of patterns of migration pre-industrial Britain is a secondary source, which is from a website that synthesizes information about patterns of migration in the industrial era of Europe. It states that long-standing patterns of mobility held in the century before 1750, which was the time period before the Industrial Revolution in Great Britain. The evidence for patterns of migration in pre-industrial Japan is a secondary source, from a collection of charts and analysis on Japan's population, that shows the changes in demographic in the rural village of Yokohama. It shows how the small population before industrialization grew exponentially during the Industrial Revolution in Japan. During and post-industrialization, patterns of migration changed drastically. Due to industrialization, more and more people migrated to cities and urban areas, resulting in demographic changes and population increases. The evidence for patterns of migration post-industrialization in Britain is a primary source that came from an 1851 census report of the UK by the British government. It is a chart showing how population in Britain steadily increased during industrialization from the year 1801 to 1851. The evidence of patterns of migration in post-industrial Japan is a secondary source, from a collection of charts and analysis on Japan's population that discusses rapid population growth as a result of migration during the Industrial Revolution. Japan's population went from 11 million in 1600 before industrialization to 30 million in 1721 during the Industrial Revolution. These pieces of evidence show how industrialization fostered migration, which contributed to demographic and population changes in industrialized countries such as Britain and Japan. To conclude this video, now that we have discussed some ways in which industrialization affected patterns of migration, you will review the big ideas to see if you will come up with new answers. Use any of the information or examples we have discussed. Number 1. What motivated people to migrate during the period 1750 to 1900? Number 2. How did the technological advancements of the industrial era contribute to migration? Number 3. How did patterns of migration differ before and after the Industrial Revolution? Have you come up with any new answers? This concludes our presentation. The following slides are our sources if you would like to learn more about the topic of migration in the Industrial Revolution. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye!